Let me take you to a beautiful Monday morning in London. I'm quickly scrolling down on social media before leaving home to go to the office. And the quote I am about to read was the final trigger for what I consider to be the most important decision in my life so far. The day I changed was the day I quit trying to fit into a world that never really fit me. Have you ever felt a quote is speaking to you directly? That day, I definitely did. In one simple sentence, it became crystal clear why I could not find fulfillment in my life. Since I left high school, most of my decisions were more a reflection of society's recipe for success than what I truly wanted for my life. And to be honest, I had never put much thought on those decisions because I just had to follow the standard model. You know, to complete an undergraduate degree with good career prospects at a top university, to do a master's degree straight away, and then to immediately find a job at a great company. If I did that, I would most probably be successful and happy. I studied management, but I assume other professions will have similar given conventions for success. I have to say, I followed the model thoroughly, like so many people do. But then I wonder, why are a staggering 81% of employees worldwide not engaged? Myself included at the time. Let us think about this for a moment. 4 out of 5 employees do not work with passion and do not have a profound connection to their jobs. And in some situations, it's even worse. We hear about working overtime, burnouts, physical illnesses connected to work. This is worrying and sad. So how come is this happening? Can it be the fact that we are so busy and distracted, stressed and tired, that we cannot find the time and space to reflect about who we are and what we truly want for ourselves? Can it also be the fact that so many of us are following the standard model, yet are so uniquely different? Something to think about. And that's because of all these that day, after reading that quote, I went to the office and quit my job. After so many years, I was finally moving away from autopilot towards a happy and fulfilled life. A life where the only rule for success would be to live by my purpose, and that is to acknowledge my talents, nurture them, and put them to the service of others. And that's because of this journey that I'm here today, a journey I am still doing, and the journey I could translate, maybe because there's still a bit corporate in me, into a 4-stage model for personal development that I am so happy to share with you. Let me start with the decision-making process. 2.5 years before quitting my job, I recognized the need for a change. So I started identifying my options. You know, I could change companies, do a PhD, do an MBA, or I could travel the world. I evaluated those options and realized that the answer to my quest was not in changing companies, nor in a PhD, nor in an MBA. I don't know what you study or work in, but an MBA is an important milestone in my field. Other professions will have other things. So I realized that I needed something which would allow me time and space to play and explore, like children do. something we tend to lose as we grow up as adults. So I was kind of left with traveling. But still traveling by itself was also not appealing enough, because I didn't want to be a long-term tourist. So one night, I went to bed deeply desiring to find an answer to my quest. And that night, I had a dream. And in my dream, I pictured a book in which cover I could read why I decided to do an MLA instead of an MBA. MLA standing for Master in Life Adventures. That's it? I'm going to travel the world whilst developing different skills and competencies and exploring my passions and talents. The world will be my classroom. And if we think about it, in an MBA, I would have to fit the program. In an MLA, the program would fit me. How long do I need? What do I want to learn? Where do I want to go? So the MLA would be a personal development program fully designed for myself, which would work as a compass to help me find my purpose and ways to fulfill it. The big challenge? I would be the only person responsible to make the most out of it. So that's because of all these that I decided to do an MLA. I chose what I felt was best for me. And told like this might seem it was easy. I can count with my fingers how many people were supportive, because most voices were discouraging. Catarina, you've such a comfortable life, a stable job, a promising career ahead. How come you are throwing it all away to go on a long-term vacation? Almost like I was stopping my life and losing the train. Well, fortunately, and as you can see, I made myself deaf. Life is a journey, and I was finally driving the train myself and not being a passenger. So, after a 2-year decision-making process, and yes, it took me 2 years to decide, I entered the preparation stage, following a deep dive inwards, reflecting about what I wanted to learn and where. I literally took a blank piece of paper and designed my journey. It looked like this. At the same time, I also started to organize funding. I decided to invest my 6 years' work savings in this personal development project over a period of roughly 2 years. So for my travels, which I thought would last around a year, I would use half of my savings and, whenever possible, work in exchange of accommodation and food, which I ended up doing quite often. Then, for my return and integration, and this is really important, which I thought would last maybe another year or so, I would use the other half of my savings. Because I didn't want to come back with no money at all and have to find a job in a rush, likely to lead me to the same trap I was in before. So finally, after 6 months preparation, I bought a flexible round-the-world ticket, a really good travel insurance, packed, and took off from the UK, where I was living, to my home country, Portugal. Before the big departure, there was an important skill I wanted to learn: self-defense. And I have to say, I did learn to fight. But more importantly, I learned that the best self-defense tools do not require physical contact. And they are intuition and common sense. And they really worked on their own. So now that I was ready to explore the world, I traveled to India for my first big adventure, to live in an ashram in Rishikesh in the banks of River Ganges, where I discovered yoga and meditation for the first time, and also where I met and learned from people from all over the world. From India, I took a 20-hour bus to Nepal to learn construction, whilst helping to rebuild a school destroyed by the earthquake. Next was Thailand, where I went to live at a permaculture farm to learn gardening, cooking, natural products making, and the enlightening principles of Buddhism. And then from Thailand, I went to Myanmar, where I was a tourist for 2 weeks. Because the MLA is also about having fun. Indonesia was next. And in Indonesia, I wanted to have an experience in hospitality. So I applied to work as a volunteer at a guest house in exchange of accommodation and food. And they told me, oh, we don't need any volunteers. But, and they didn't know this, I had been their guest for the past week. So I told them all the opportunities for improvement I had identified and how I could help them. And with that, pretty much straight away, they offered me the job I had just created for myself. And I stayed 2 months. From Indonesia, I went to Australia, where I was road tripping and surfing for 6 weeks. I also started to study coaching by reading books and taking online courses. And the really interesting fact about books is that I read more during those months than I had read in the past 5 years. I had time. So, from Australia, I was supposed to go to New Zealand and so on to complete the round-the-world circle. But at this time, I really wanted to learn more about yoga and meditation. So, after some reflection, I decided to completely adjust my travel itinerary and go back to Asia to do it. And I spent a full month studying and practicing to become a yoga teacher in Thailand. Finally and interestingly, I finished my travels where I started, in India. There were still 2 adventures I wanted to go through. The first one was to learn sound healing through Tibetan singing bowls, also a form of meditation I fell in love with back in Nepal, and also an instrument I kind of carry with me everywhere I go. And when I thought I had gone through everything, I came across this second adventure. Probably the toughest and most challenging of all, but without a doubt the one I consider most important. I felt almost like all my journey had been a preparation for that. I spent 10 days in full silence, no writing or reading aloud, to learn Vipassana meditation. And during those 10 days, I was at the same place and had the same daily routines. And I actually realized that for self-knowledge to happen, you don't have to travel the world. Although I do believe it really helps. But you do have to create the time and space for it to happen. Something else I realized was that going to the depths of ourselves, like a friend of mine told me, is like a diver going to the depths of the ocean. One cannot go alone. It's the people we cross paths with who will make our journey richer and deeper. And speaking about the people I cross paths with during my MLA, they are the reason why I'm here. And I have, in a way, brought them all with me through this flag they all signed in support of my journey. And I actually don't feel at all alone in this stage. So, after 1 year of travels, I decided to return to Portugal, the flourishing phase, the stage where I am right now. It was time to incorporate learnings whilst deepening my knowledge in key areas of interest. I've, for example, taken courses in digital marketing communication. I've just recently finished my intensive training in TV and radio hosting. I've also embraced different professional experiences. Some I dropped, like artist management. Others I continue, like teaching at university, coaching, meditation. Literally, trial and error. And in reality, what I've been trying to do now that I have this box full of new tools is to reinvent myself professionally whilst living by my purpose. And I have, in fact, chosen a lifestyle very different from what I've ever had and from what I planned. You know, I thought maybe I would go back to the corporate world, which I could have, but chose not to, at least for now. What happened was I chose to let go of the standards and be okay with that. I chose to have a dynamic work life where I'm fully in charge of my time and full with different activities and also different sources of income, because we did that, of course. And also activities that I cannot really describe in one job title. People keep asking me, you know, what's my job? What do I do? It's almost like they need that for me to define myself. And the other day I responded, oh, it's difficult to say, you know, I do many things. And someone said, oh, that's because you do nothing. And I've also heard people saying that I'm kind of wasting my talents. But you know what? That's okay. Because one of the best things I bring from AMLA is this sense of inner peace, where I fully trust myself and where I'm confident with my choices, which are done very consciously and for a purpose. And the key aspects about my MLA that I would like to share with you is that what happened was very different from what I had planned. Because I found new areas of interest, new passions, developed new insights about myself. I actually realized that the MLA, it's not structure, it's flexibility. It's not rules, it's freedom. It's not autopilot, it's living deeply in the present moment. It's not comfort zone, it's where magic happens. It's not how many places you visit, but how deep you go in each place you visit. It's not just traveling. It's a transformational experience on the inside that reflects on the outside. And a powerful way to help you find your true north. And because there isn't a solution, I propose a model for personal development that uses the world as a classroom. A tool that works as a compass for people like me to challenge ourselves by going beyond our borders. So the MLA is a structure for the no structure we all need to have time and space to explore the wonders of the world and above all, the wonders of our own self. And you know, we take time to get to know our family, our friends, make new friends, learn about others on social media. But then, so many of us are not taking the time for the most important thing, to get to know ourselves. And the MLA is just one alternative to dive into this mysterious path that goes inward, a way to get to a profound knowledge of our own self, which will allow us to acknowledge and nurture our talents, and flourish for a life of purpose. So here's my proposal as we finish this inspiring day. Let's challenge ourselves to flourish and use the world as a classroom. Thank you.